the ocean doesn't forgive hesitation. In the dark stretch of international waters, a slim, fiberglass go-fast boat pushes its engines to the edge, cargo hidden beneath tarps, crew masked by salt spray and speed. On its radar, a U.S. Coast Guard interception team locks on. What follows isn't a simple chase. It's a chess match at 50 knots, where every move is answered, every tactic countered, and where hesitation could mean thousands of pounds of cocaine slipping into the black market. Certain U.S. chase boats are able to overtake vessels specifically designed for smuggling due to a combination of advanced technology, coordinated tactics, and purpose-driven engineering. At first glance, it seems counterintuitive. How can heavily laden government vessels consistently catch sleek, stripped-down, go-fast boats built for one thing only: speed? The answer lies in the relentless pursuit of superiority, where speed alone is never enough. U.S. Coast Guard and partner agencies deploy interceptors like the 41-foot Safe Boats platform, which are lean, muscular craft powered by multiple high-performance outboards that together deliver thousands of horsepower. These are not recreational speedboats dressed up for enforcement. They are engineered from keel to helm for pursuit. Their deep V hulls slice through chop at speeds exceeding 50 knots, maintaining control even in rolling seas. Reinforced frames absorb punishing impacts, and shock-mitigating seats keep crews functional during grueling chases. Unlike smugglers who push fragile fiberglass hulls to their limits, U.S. crews operate craft designed to sustain maximum throttle for hours without catastrophic failure. This reliability is a weapon, but raw speed is only the first layer. The balance is truly tilted by advanced detection and tracking. Smugglers often bet on stealth, running with minimal lights, hugging coastlines, or hiding in maritime traffic. Yet U.S. enforcement agencies extend their reach far beyond the visible horizon. Over-the-horizon radar sweeps vast sea lanes, while infrared and electro-optical systems pierce the darkness to spot heat signatures invisible to the human eye. Unmanned aerial vehicles scan from above, relaying real-time coordinates. Surveillance aircraft like the HC-130J Super Hercules patrol at altitude, detecting anomalies in wave patterns that betray fast-moving boats. With this layered web of sensors, smugglers are hunted long before they know they are being watched. A trafficker may imagine he is slipping into the night unseen, but high above, an operator is already plotting his intercept point with cold precision. The pursuit itself is not a simple head-to-head race. It is a multi-layered strategy designed to close every exit.
Before we get to that, I need your help. I'm trying to hit 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and I need your help. So I would really appreciate it if you could subscribe and help me out.
Large patrol cutters act as floating command centers, launching smaller high-speed boats the moment a contact is confirmed. Helicopters roar overhead, armed not just with spotlights, but with precision riflemen trained to disable engines with single shots. The sight of rotor wash tearing the ocean's surface and a sniper's laser dot tracking across a smuggler's stern creates psychological shock, making escape feel suddenly impossible. From sea and sky, assets converge, narrowing angles until a smuggler's only options are surrender or catastrophic collision. Speed may open the race, but tactics close it, turning the ocean from a limitless expanse into a tightening noose. The chase often turns brutal, as smugglers throw unpredictability into the sea with zigzagging courses and sudden stops. To counter these maneuvers, interception teams lean on non-lethal stopping technologies and sometimes sheer creativity. Propeller fouling lines can entangle engines. If all else fails, helicopter sharpshooters, steady hands firing from unstable platforms, take aim directly at engines, disabling vessels with precision. These methods don't just stop boats, they deliver a message that no desperate maneuver guarantees escape. None of this would succeed without the human factor, training and tactics honed through relentless repetition. Interdiction teams spend countless hours rehearsing high-speed maneuvers, boarding protocols, and coordinated engagements with air and sea units. They drill to anticipate traffickers' evasive tricks, such as sudden zigzags, feigned engine failures, or attempts to jettison contraband mid-pursuit. The crews learn to think like smugglers, predicting moves before they unfold. For traffickers, every maneuver feels desperate. For trained crews, every response is calculated. Behind the front line is a culture of persistent upgrades. The ocean is unforgiving, and traffickers constantly experiment with new boat designs. U.S. agencies refuse to remain static. New generations of outboard engines provide more thrust with greater efficiency, while electronic warfare capabilities expand the ability to jam or disrupt trafficker communications. Every innovation by smugglers is met with a countermeasure, ensuring that the performance curve always tilts toward enforcement. The result is a perpetual arms race. The stakes of these pursuits are not abstract. Billions of dollars in narcotics move by sea each year. Every successful interception denies criminal cartels both profit and power, while every escape strengthens their reach. The urgency fuels the U.S. response. Enforcement crews know they are not merely chasing fiberglass and gasoline, they are interdicting the flow of violence, corruption, and addiction into communities ashore. For traffickers, losing a boat can mean losing the trust of a cartel, sometimes at the cost of their lives. For U.S. crews, failure can mean seeing drugs poison another generation. Both sides operate under crushing pressure, but only one side commands an integrated machine of technology, training, and coordination. When their throttles hit the stops, adrenaline surges with the illusion of freedom. But when radar tracks them, when a chase boat closes relentlessly from behind, and when the thumping of rotor blades descends from above, confidence curdles into fear. The ocean becomes smaller, every direction blocked. The illusion of invincibility collapses as sharpshooters disable engines with surgical precision, leaving smugglers dead in the water. In that moment, the stark reality emerges. Speed alone is meaningless without strategy. Experts have long acknowledged this imbalance. Naval analysts have described how U.S. cutters and interceptors create networks of inevitability, where detection almost guarantees eventual interception. Former Coast Guard commanders emphasize that the difference lies not just in technology, but in doctrine, the mindset that no pursuit is isolated, that every chase is part of a broader theater of control. Journalists embedded with Coast Guard crews report on the sheer professionalism of interdiction teams, contrasting it with the desperation of traffickers throwing bales of drugs overboard in futile attempts to lighten their load. These accounts validate what statistics confirm. Interception rates have climbed steadily as technology and tactics mature, proving that the system works not by chance, but by design.
Before we get to that, I need your help. I'm trying to hit 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and I need your help. So I would really appreciate it if you could subscribe and help me out.
Smugglers exploit the ocean's vastness to hide, while U.S. agencies compress that vastness with surveillance, speed, and coordination. The ocean may stretch for thousands of miles, but for traffickers, it is shrinking. Hemmed in by an adversary who can see beyond the horizon, strike from the sky, and close distance faster than any escape plan allows. They jump into the ocean not because it makes sense, but because in that instant, it feels like the only choice left. A drug cartel crew, cornered by the sudden appearance of U.S. pursuit boats, doesn't weigh long-term strategy. The ship, the cargo, the millions in cocaine or meth stacked in hidden compartments, all of it becomes expendable the moment those black-painted armed vessels crest the horizon. What matters is survival, not profit. Every crew member knows the rule. Getting caught with the shipment is a guaranteed ticket to prison. U.S. prosecutors treat maritime trafficking cases as airtight because the contraband sits right there on the deck, undeniable. Staying on board means being photographed next to bales of cocaine, your fingerprints on plastic-wrapped bricks, your identity chained forever to evidence. Jumping into the water, however reckless, severs that direct connection. Without bodies on board, without men sitting next to the drugs, the case weakens. They're not escaping the pursuit boat. They're escaping the narrative of guilt that possession creates. This calculation sits at the heart of why contraband means less than freedom. A single shipment is valuable, but to the cartel, it is one of many. The cartel will replace lost product, but a man serving 30 years cannot be replaced. That is why the choice is brutal but clear. Lose the drugs, maybe live free. Keep the drugs, definitely lose yourself. The danger is not only in the prosecution, but also in the confrontation itself. U.S. pursuit boats do not shadow quietly. They arrive fast, armored, and loud. The sight alone is enough to trigger panic. The splash into the ocean is both surrender and defiance. It denies law enforcement the clean victory of capture on deck. This is often a protocol dictated from above. A captured crew can talk and dismantle networks. The order to abandon ship is, in some cases, a standing protocol. Do not resist, do not shoot, do not fight, and above all, do not let yourself become a witness. A sunken boat leaves no paperwork trail. A drowned smuggler tells no stories. The cartel values silence more than loyalty, and silence is easier to enforce when capture is avoided altogether. The chaos of abandonment transforms the scene. Law enforcement often films these moments. A boat veering suddenly, figures splashing into dark water, bales of cocaine left scattered across the deck. To outsiders, it looks absurd, almost suicidal. Yet, inside the mind of the smuggler, it makes sense. The fear of prison is deeper than the fear of water. The shame of capture is heavier than the waves, and sometimes the ocean is kinder than the courtroom. Each incident reveals the asymmetry of risk. For law enforcement, every chase is about intercepting drugs. For the smugglers, every chase is about evading destiny. The drugs are replaceable assets. Cartel strategists know that replacing a ton of cocaine is cheaper than losing a loyal courier to a 30-year sentence. In this economy of fear, boats and cargo are consumables, sacrifices made on the altar of silence and mobility. This behavior is not cowardice, it is compliance with a brutal system. The cartel's instructions shape behavior as much as fear does. This abandonment also creates tactical dilemmas for U.S. forces. Saving lives competes with securing evidence. A pursuit boat must decide whether to pull smugglers from the water or chase floating bales of cocaine drifting away. The very act of jumping fractures law enforcement's priorities, forcing them into split-second decisions where lives, drugs, and proof all scatter across the waves. Cartel leaders understand this, and though they sacrifice the shipment, they force their adversary into logistical chaos. The freedom to breathe outside a prison cell outweighs the loss of millions in drugs. What looks like abandonment of value is actually preservation of self. The drugs are valuable only until the moment law enforcement arrives. After that, they become poison, evidence that guarantees ruin. So the next time footage shows cartel members throwing themselves into dark water as flashing lights close in, understand it for what it is: a survival strategy born of fear, orders, and calculation. The secret is not luck. It is a network of advanced onboard systems that transform the ocean from a void of uncertainty into a map of signals, heat, and movement. The first weapon is radar. Mounted high on the hardtop, the spinning array is the invisible eye that sees farther than human sight. In rough seas, when waves rise and moonlight vanishes, radar penetrates the fog of uncertainty. It tracks fast-moving silhouettes beyond the horizon. Without radar, pursuit begins late, if at all. With it, the hunt starts before the smugglers know they've been noticed. But radar alone is not enough. Smugglers run dark and kill their lights, hoping the night conceals them. That is when FLIR, forward. Looking infrared becomes the deciding factor. These cameras pierce the darkness not by light, but by heat. The glow of engines, the warmth of human bodies, all betray what stealth tries to hide. On the operator's screen, the ocean is black, but the boat is a streak of white fire, impossible to erase. A smuggler may believe he has disappeared, but to FLIR, he burns like a beacon. The power lies not only in each system, but in how they converge. Modern interceptors fuse radar tracks, GPS coordinates, flare images, and chart overlays into a single display. A touchscreen console becomes the brain of the vessel, pulling fragments of data into one coherent picture. This integration anchors clarity, allowing the helmsman to cut across swells without losing orientation. All of this intelligence is useless if the crew cannot physically endure the chase. At 40 knots, every wave is a hammer blow. Without shock mitigation seats and hulls designed for stability, the crew would be battered into exhaustion long before contact. This stability is more than comfort. It is survival of focus. Communication extends the reach of these systems beyond a single vessel. Over encrypted channels, interceptors link with aircraft circling above, cutters holding perimeter, and command centers ashore. When a target dips behind waves or disappears from radar, a plane may still see it. Coordinates are relayed, vectors updated, and the boat resumes pursuit without hesitation. This web of information denies smugglers the chance to vanish. The ocean that once offered infinite escape becomes a cage of surveillance. The faster they run, the hotter their engines glow. The darker they go, the more obvious their absence of light against radar sweeps. Each trick they use to escape becomes another vulnerability exposed. This is not simply technology. It is psychological warfare. Smugglers who once trusted the cover of night now know that eyes they cannot see are watching. The red bloom of an infrared target box on a screen seals their fate before they realize it. The chase often begins before smugglers even realize they are being watched. When the interception finally comes, it feels sudden and unavoidable to the traffickers. The result? Fewer desperate last-ditch attempts to ram or resist. Fewer drawn-out chases that tempt escalation. The US has built a strategy designed to remove hesitation without succumbing to aggression. The first cornerstone is an ironclad commitment to non-lethal force. Instead of opening fire indiscriminately, maritime forces use a ladder of escalation, from radio warnings and flares to precision disabling fire on engines. Smugglers expect hostility. They encounter controlled determination instead. This discipline pays dividends when you consider what could go wrong. The non-lethal first doctrine avoids traps like drownings or political outrage. It projects authority without surrendering the moral high ground. The cost of one fatal incident could outweigh dozens of successful interdictions. The US has concentrated interdiction forces in corridors where smuggling is most frequent, creating the impression of inevitability. This projection of presence discourages reckless runs before they begin. It builds rhythm, and smugglers accustomed to open gaps in enforcement suddenly find the ocean more crowded with patrol craft, cutters, and aircraft overhead. The psychology shifts from opportunity to paranoia. The third pillar is cooperation, both interagency and international. Smugglers exploit jurisdictional boundaries by darting across territorial lines. To counter this, the US has established bilateral agreements allowing hot pursuit and shared operations with regional partners. Joint patrols mean a US chase doesn't end at the invisible border of another nation's waters. Legal frameworks transform potential flashpoints into seamless operations. A smuggler who believes crossing into another nation's waters guarantees safety may instead find a foreign patrol boat waiting. The pursuit has become borderless. The US has invested in helping partner nations strengthen their judicial systems, because a smuggler who sees trial and conviction is a warning that carries farther than a boat sunk at sea. The fight shifts from the ocean's surface to the courtroom, where violence holds no advantage. By aligning interdiction with judicial certainty, the US minimizes the temptation to rely on brute force alone. When offenders are processed within a system of law, the legitimacy of action is harder to challenge. The psychological weight of a chase boat is immense. At the first glimpse, panic rises. Cartel crews know that once spotted, the clock starts ticking. This recognition unleashes primal fear, which often erupts into frantic actions. That panic quickly evolves into something deeper: helplessness. The technological gap is obvious. Chase boats move with a speed and agility few cartel craft can match, and they rarely act alone. Smugglers describe the sensation of being stalked from every angle, as if the ocean itself has turned against them. The crew, once confident in their ability to evade, begins to feel surrounded. Their options collapse to zero, leaving resignation as the only psychological outcome. Over time, the effect compounds. Word spreads through networks that chase boats are relentless. Morale declines. The psychological erosion becomes as valuable as the physical seizures. A demoralized operative is less reliable and more likely to make mistakes. The symbolism of the chase boat matters as much as its firepower. It is a floating message that surveillance is constant, that evasion is fleeting, that no ocean is large enough to hide in. The deterrent effect expands beyond those caught. The psychological impact forces traffickers into self-destructive strategies. A crew that believes it must outpace inevitable pursuit may overload engines or travel in poor weather, all choices that increase mortality and loss. In the chaos of a pursuit, trust within the crew corrodes. Cartel organizations thrive on discipline and loyalty, but repeated exposure to interdiction frays those bonds. At its core, the psychological power of chase boats lies in contradiction. Smugglers enter the sea believing in skill, cunning, and luck. The chase boat strips that away in seconds, replacing confidence with panic and hope with inevitability. It transforms the ocean from a vast escape route into a shrinking trap. Each encounter proves that no amount of training, no depth of loyalty, and no measure of desperation can truly outmatch the technological and tactical superiority they face. The effect is not measured only in tons of cocaine seized, but in the fear imprinted on those who survived pursuit. The high-speed chase is no longer the smuggler's game. It belongs to those who know how to win without violence. The balance between speed and restraint, technology and judgment, enforcement and law is delicate, but it works. Every interdiction that ends with engines disabled instead of lives lost proves it. Every successful prosecution instead of a firefight cements it. And every smuggler who sees escape as futile rather than thrilling confirms it. What cartels cannot predict is how quickly U.S. agencies will adjust, how deeply intelligence will shape pursuit, and how alliances will close gaps once exploited. The closure lies in this truth. The ocean's chaos is mirrored in the cartel's unpredictability, but adaptability transforms chaos into control. High-speed interception boats are not static machines. They are evolving answers to evolving threats. The men and women aboard them embody the same principle: flexibility, resilience, and relentless pursuit. The battle at sea will never be finished, but as long as interception teams adapt faster than cartels innovate, the balance tilts toward those who choose law over lawlessness, vigilance over complacency, and survival over surrender.